Welcome, everyone, to this month's episode of Recovery Rockstar. My name is Melinda White. I am a person in long-term recovery. What that means to me is that I haven't had to live in active addiction since December 28, 2011. I have continued to enjoy the blessings of being in recovery, meeting the most amazing people traveling the same journey, and also to share information to our communities. So as I commonly do, I am going to put in a plug for Narcan, also known as naloxone. Narcan is the opioid overdose kit. It's the drug that can reverse an overdose that is available to anyone. If you go to the Vermont Department of Health website, you'll find a pilot site near you, and you can access Narcan at no charge. And I will continue to say it's better to have a kit and not need it than to need a kit and not have it. So continuing to highlight this life-saving drug, Narcan naloxone. So this is our first show in 2023. And I am extremely grateful to be able to interview somebody that I have been able to enjoy watching over the years and that I consider a dear friend. I appreciate what she has to say, the insight, the wisdom, and just more than anything, love her dearly. And I'm so grateful that she is here and willing to share some hope with all of you. So for starters, Katie, welcome.
Thank you, Melinda. Thank you for having me on this show.
I'm so grateful that you came here today, Katie. I'm so excited. We've been able to do a lot of different activities together over the years, and I'm just so grateful to have you here today. So if you're comfortable, tell the viewers a little bit about what your life looked like in the earlier years, so kind of in your youth years.
Okay, so I started, I'm taking it way, way, way back.
Yeah.
I have a faulty roadmap. I had a faulty roadmap through this thing called life from a very, very, very early age. I started self-harming at the age of 7 or 8, and then it just progressed from there. As most in this situation have grown up with dysfunction and toxicity. I started smoking cigarettes when I was 11 because I was convinced that would help make me skinny, which is not true. Tobacco just made me have chronic heartburn and killed my teeth. And when I was, and it, I dabbled in just like cigarettes, being 11, 12 years old, smoking cigarettes, behind abandoned buildings in the city of St. Albans for, and then I think when I would, I'm one of those 80s kids that started kindergarten at the age of 5. So yeah. I was 14 when I started high school. And I never really got along with my peers, only because I think I wasn't taught the proper skills on how to develop emotional relationships with, people around my age. And so I started hanging out with older kids, and I remember I bought my first bag of weed when I was 14. I have an incredible work ethic. Making money, it seems to be in my blood. I work. And so I bought my first bag of pot. I remember asking the guy, is this the good stuff? Because I'd never known what pot was. I didn't know what was good or what was bad. I just know I didn't want the bad stuff. And so I started smoking pot. I have a rip-roaring ADHD. It's very hard for me to sit still. And I almost, until I learned better skills, it was nearly impossible to shut my brain off. And so when I was a freshman, I looked around, especially in the lunchroom. I'm like, yeah, there's got to be somebody around here has got to have Ritalin. Or I think I thought, Ritalin at that time. And so I managed to find a kid to give me his 2 doses of Ritalin a day, his one in the morning, then one before lunch.
That's at school now?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
I don't know the history behind,
Right.
the child, so I don't know if the meds were supposed to be given to the school nurse, or if he just carried them, or if he had his own doses. So I was able to get 1 to 2, I think 10 milligram Ritalin a day, and when I was on that, my brain, it felt like my brain was finally in sync, that I was able to sit still and do my schoolwork without hearing the school buses go by or the cars go by, and I was able to thoroughly sit down and write my assignments out and just be a functioning student, who was not distracted the entire time. And when school would let out, I'd go to work, and I'd be able to do my job, and without having what I call the anxiety that I created within myself from not being able to perform as I thought I needed to.
Right, so you probably had high expectations on yourself. And it also, from the sounds of it, so you grew up in St. Albans. You were in Franklin County.
Yep.
You were in high school and doing something outside yourself so you could perform better. So it sounds like you had really high expectations of yourself.
Right, but halfway through the year, the kid went to a different school, and I was left without anything. And that was hard. It was hard, and I immediately went back to the old Katie, the old brain going 100 miles an hour, the not doing schoolwork, missing assignments, waking up late, not eating, for months and months and months this went on. And then luckily, I had heard at that point in time there was an alternative school called New Beginnings, who it was a small program with 4 teachers, about 30 kids, and it was a little bit more manageable. We had like 6 to 9 students in a class, and we had 4 rooms, and we weren't allowed to really, well, I felt like during our school time that we weren't allowed to really wander, which was good for me. And then I had a teacher go with me to my then doctor at the time to tell him about how I was not completing my schoolwork, how I would talk all the time in class, and how I wasn't paying attention. And sure enough, he was very, very, he didn't listen to what my needs were and what the teacher was saying to him. And I just remember being hysterical in his office and crying and being like, look, I need help. Right. If I don't get this help, I'm done with school, because there's no point in me staying in a place that I can't perform. And finally, like, after having lived with this for years and years and years, he wrote me a very small script, very, very low dose of an ADHD medication. And I started to take it as prescribed as I was supposed to, and school went so much easier. Wow. So much easier.
So, and that was still part of like your high school years,
yep.
Right? Okay. So it sounds like, somebody finally listened to you and you found a point of peace. And you also had mentioned that prior to that, you had, taken up smoking to lose weight, which I love, because that doesn't
work, by the way. It does not work.
And then marijuana and whatnot. So after you got finished with high school, when can you remember getting wrapped up in substances to a point that there was a problem? Like you identified, wow, I'm doing something and this is a problem. What did that look like?
I had always worked throughout high school, and so how I found out I was first addicted to drugs was because I tried to stop. I had, summer would come around, I'd work and spend my money on opiates or Ritalin and I'd buy off the street. And then I'd stop in time for school and I'd go about do everything I needed to do for school. And then around, I want to say junior year is when I first experienced the opiate sickness.
Right, which is horrible.
Right, and so, I worked all the way up till I was not able. But when I graduated, I always hung out with the older kids. So, I lived a life of survival.
Right.
And this was even before the addiction. Like, so kids were getting ready to go to prom, and I was at home watching my sisters. And, kids would be going to dances, and I'd be working, or I was not allowed. I wouldn't say I wasn't allowed. I wasn't given the opportunity to have a proper childhood, if you,
Right.
so to speak, because, I grew up very, very poor, and it wasn't until I moved to St. Albans that I realized I couldn't hide it forever, because it's easier to be poor out in the sticks, but when you move into the city, you can't really hide it.
Right. So it sounds like you were focusing more on between working and hoping to take care of your sisters and whatnot. So
Yeah.
do you find that you went in that direction? And you also said, too, that when you realized it was a problem, it's when you stopped.
Yeah.
And then you'd go through withdrawal. So what events or what took place for you to get to a point to realize that, like, did you ever try to stop on your own and not have success and decide, I need help? Like, what did that look like?
Well, I graduated high school without a plan. I had a job. I thankfully, our local high school offered something through the technical center, and at the age of 16, I earned my licensed nursing assistant license, and I never used like when I went to work. That's my bottom line, is when you're dealing with humans, this is me personally, I just don't cross that line, because, these are people who cannot take care of themselves. And so safety is the first priority. And you can't be taking care of people. Well, I'm sure you can. There have been many people like that out there, but it wasn't for me. So I'd work, and I'd go home, and I'd hammer the pills because I was off work.
Right.
And I'd either stay awake, or I would sleep. I sleep through school. Then luckily, junior year and senior year, I was able to go down to half days for my technical program, and I was able to really focus on bringing in an income.
Mm-hmm.
Although I could not rent an apartment, which is
Cost of living was nuts.
yeah, because I wasn't living at home. I had been
That's okay, and you don't have to go there.
No.
You don't have to go there. So things had become a struggle, right? And you had shorter days, which made it easier for you to spend a little more time on working and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, at what point did you identify, I have a drug problem I need help with?
Probably at 16. I think the first time I went to a teenage treatment program was an outpatient program in Burlington, where I went and I had to pee in a cup and we talked about using. None of that stuff made sense to me because I wasn't an addict at that point.
Right.
I had not become addicted in just a little bit of pot. And if they grew up in the household that I grew up with, they'd smoke pot too.
Right, right. So it felt like almost normal to some degree, like it wasn't a big thing.
Right.
So if you look ahead, at what point in your life did you come to a place where you said, I need help, like you wanted help for you? Not that everybody else wants you to get help, but you felt like I need help myself.
I didn't reach that point until after I overdosed. In 2007, I graduated high school in 2005, but by 2007, I was gone. I spent after graduating high school, I spent the next 2 years chasing and feeding my high.
Right, right.
And I overdosed at a local place, and I think 12 houses from the hospital. I overdosed, and when I got my system cleaned out, and I had to look at my recovery, I believe I came back a stronger addict.
Right.
Because it took me a couple rounds to finally get clean. Death didn't scare me.
How old were you for that overdose that you just referenced?
I had just turned 20.
You had just turned 20. Okay.
Yeah, it happened on January 7th, 2007. So it's really, really close. Like, I had plans to go back to work, to be done the next day and to go back to work. But I died. And, yeah, so it was...
What do you mean when you say you died?
Like, I stopped breathing. I was without oxygen to my brain for 27 minutes, and like, I had taken so many opiates that I stopped breathing.
Got it. And they were able to resuscitate you and bring you back?
Yes, but I did die 3 times on the gurney, and it was because, this could be wrong, and if you're listening, I really, really love for you to reach out, that a medical student suggested to the ER docs about Narcan. Yes, Narcan saved my life. And I've never read the full record. I wouldn't even know how to even get a hold of that. But I was just told that a medical student saved my life because, Northwest Medical is a teaching hospital.
Right.
I'm very grateful for that.
So are we.
Yeah.
Because we got you. So you died 3 times within that overdose.
Yeah.
Okay. But you had said that even after that, it didn't exactly make you feel like that was scary.
No.
I died 3 times, I'm going to stop. It made you actually want to use more, right?
Right, because like I had no memory of it. I have no memory of it. Still to this day, I have a hard time. Like, I may remember bits and pieces. Like, I remember the ride to UVM. I remember stopping, being in the back of the ambulance, and the ambulance stopping in front of the hospital at Northwest Medical. And that was because a sensor had gone off or something. And I vaguely remember that, but I don't remember the being...
Well, often the onlookers, too, are the ones that it's terrifying for, right?
Yeah.
The people who witness it, even more than the person going through it. 'Cause
Right.
just like you're saying, it's like it's a fog. I remember bits and pieces. But it's not shocking. I think for people who maybe don't know somebody who's gone through addiction or overdose, for
Right.
people listening, they might think, how can that not be, your bottom? And yet for those of us who have, had those events, whether it's seizures or overdoses and all these things that, well, we're not seeing it with a clear head and how scary it is.
Right.
If we could see ourselves on video, maybe it would be more of an effect. So in your case, it sounds like you continued, you weren't ready for recovery.
Right.
What happened to get you ready for recovery? Like, what exactly happened where you were finally like, I am ready to surrender?
All right, so when I woke up from my coma, I was in a coma for 10 days, and they shoved a tube down my throat to help pump my stomach, and I received a tracheotomy, which whoever did that, you did a fabulous job, and again, I'd like you to reach out so I could thank you. I woke up in UVM, and attached all these machines and the beeping, and I woke up and it was like I had just been asleep.
Right.
It wasn't like I didn't know that I had hurt myself to the degree that I now have physical limitations, and I have a hard time recalling certain things and remembering certain things. My short-term memory is probably, my brain had got it the worst,
Mm-hmm.
And
So after all of that had happened, and then continuing to go on and use, and then finally deciding you want recovery, tell me what recovery looks like to you.
my recovery was, all right, we have to go back. Okay. So,
Okay. Just keeping an eye on time. We've got about 5 minutes left.
oh,
I know it flies.
yeah. So, recovery came to me in the form of Dr. Fred Holmes. That man said to me on more than one occasion, "Don't you want something better?" And I mean, at that young age, I could not envision me wanting a life, let alone living a life sober. So, I was placed on a maintenance program, and then when like a month before Fred retired, I walked right into his office and we were going about our business, and he printed me out my last prescription. On the prescription, I wrote void. I stopped taking Suboxone because I wanted to go camping, and I did not want to have to be constantly tied down to some rigid schedule where I would get sick if I didn't take this medication. And I went camping and had a blast.
Awesome.
It felt great to wake up without needing something.
Right.
And recovery, being on the other side of things and finally being able to see the bright side of life is phenomenal. And I'm so grateful. And I'm so grateful that I get to experience this life, because not everyone makes it.
Right.
And when you die, that's it. You're done. And I've been given an opportunity to come back and spread the message of love and hope, and recovery is for everybody.
I love that. Just hearing you say that, to spread the message, because it's like you didn't die and there was a purpose and you were living out your purpose. Mm-hmm. And if I'm not mistaken, too, on this journey, not only have in the process of you getting in recovery from drugs and alcohol, but do you still smoke?
No, I do not.
No, you do not.
I quit January 4th, 2019. I took care of it. I was not a baby anymore, but I took care of a child, and I didn't want him saying, Katie smokes, because it's not a good look.
So again, there's an example of you leading by example.
Yeah.
And this is why, Katie, I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful that you came on this show. So grateful to have met you on this journey. And then, I think to watch you grow, to watch each other grow. What are some of the, in the last couple minutes, just a couple things that you think are helpful for, like what works for you in is there anything that you've changed in your daily life? Anything that you think contributes to how much of a strong person in recovery you are now?
I know that connection is very, very important, and it's very difficult to achieve connection if you don't know how to do it. And the thing that helped me the most was being able to be in a place such as the recovery center and find that connection I was so desperately looking for.
Yeah. So going to a recovery center too, and do you think what was helpful about that? Was it being around other people who got it? Was it anything specific about it, or is it just knowing that you weren't alone?
Well, knowing I wasn't alone is the big thing. Was because I felt like I was needed. I could do things. I could lay out chairs, or I could vacuum the floor, and even though I may appear small, it made such a huge difference, and people are always so grateful to come to a clean place.
Exactly. Well, again, Katie, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show, but even more so for who you are, for the light that you shine, that you bring to the places you go. I'm grateful for the time that we've had to do, whether it's going to retreats or doing different events or different outreach. And it's just, that's what it's all about, right? Giving away. We can't keep it if we don't give it away.
Right.
And you are one of those people that I look at, and it's like how selfless you are, how kind and loving you are. And I can't thank you enough for having such a strong message.
Well, I have to be, because that was not always shown to me. And the best way to overcome anything is to do the opposite of what you know.
I know that's right. Well, thank you again
You are
so
so
much,
very
Katie.
welcome, Melinda.
I'm grateful that you came on the show, and I want to thank everybody for watching. And as Katie said, look things up. Get connection. We've heard a lot of guests that come on the show say that they really need connection to others, and especially when it comes to traveling the recovery journey and just knowing that we're not alone. So if there's anybody who's listening and feels like there's no hope for you, or just feels like there's something different about your circumstance, as we often hear, if there's a name for it, somebody else out there has done it. So take
Right.
the whip off your back and come and get help, because we just want to love you till you can love yourself.
Yep.
So I want to thank everybody for watching our show. Thank you, Katie, again for coming on. I love you dearly. I'm so proud of you and just so excited to have you in my life. And I want to thank all of the viewers for watching. We'll see you next time on Recovery Rockstar.